Hi, it's me. Look, just a brief disclaimer before we get on with it. This is an old video. Some might even charitably describe it as vintage. This video was made all the way back in December 2020. It is now, as of release, late September 2025. So this thing's been sitting in the wings unreleased for 5 years. And the reason for that is, back then, I just made my first video on King's Quest, and I was doing a Patreon campaign where if certain Patreon milestones were met, I would continue to make videos about the King's Quest sequels. Disgusting, yes, I know, but they were desperate times. Anyway, after releasing that first King's Quest video, I figured I'd better do something in between, because who knows how long it'll take to reach that second milestone for a King's Quest 2 video. Well, as it transpired, it happened very quickly, and I'd made my promise, so I shelved this video in favor of staying on the King's Quest train. And now, 5 years later, I'm finally getting off my ass and actually releasing this to the public because, as Ancient SQH will explain in a moment, I actually played this because it was the prequel to a game called Universe, and I have now, rather belatedly you could say, actually started playing Universe, so there will be a video on that in the near future. So as you watch what you're about to watch, please bear in mind that this is 5 years ago SQH stuff. It's got the poorly animated avatar and pretty shitty editing, but it is, as apologists would say, a product of its time. So, well, here we go.
Hi, I'm the Space Quest historian, and as that name would imply, I am really very fond of Space Quest. I do realize there are other games in this world, granted that all inevitably and categorically pale in comparison to the glory of the Space Quest series, but are games worth some attention nonetheless. For instance, a lot of adventure games came out in the 1990s that were, some more obviously than others, inspired by the Space Quest games. And one such game is Universe, a relatively obscure and forgotten adventure game made by Core Design. Yes, the same Core who went on to create a slightly more well-known series featuring a wealthy psychopath with an irrational hatred of wildlife who goes around robbing gravesites. Now, you may be thinking, did I click on the wrong video? Didn't this video say Curse of Enchantia in the video title? And yes, it did. Universe is actually not the subject of this video, but it is the game that I really wanted to play. But since it was originally meant to be the sequel to the game we're talking about today, I figured I should start with this one, just in case there were some references down the line I might miss if I didn't play it. This is, as you've probably guessed by now, Curse of Enchantia from 1992, or, well, its intro screen, which stays on your screen for a frankly disturbingly long time, or until you hit the mouse button. Now, this gives us plenty of time to delve a little into the background of the game. This was Core's first proper foray into the adventure game genre. It's a fantasy comic strip sort of comedy thing. The big selling point for this one, at least in Core's mind, was that it had no dialogue. Everything is communicated through graphics and sound. So, here's the intro. There's a lady in a fancy robe yelling at a cauldron. Then she goes out on her balcony and scowls a bit at it. Oh, nice bit of Emperor Palpatine action with the hands. And then we cut to downtown, wherever the fuck, where this dope with a baseball bat is just standing out in the middle of a field and... oh, swing and a miss there, dude. And now we're upside down in the dungeon. And I'm in control now. Okay, skip back. Did I miss something? Yelling at the cauldron, scowling at the balcony, electric hands, baseball, zap, dungeon. Okay, well, that didn't tell me anything. I guess if we want the full backstory to this enigmatic tale, we'll have to check the manual. So, it turns out Scowly McShoutyface here is a witch from the realm of Enchantia. Lovely name, sure, it's a great holiday spot for the kids. She's evil, for no good reason, all witches are just evil, apparently, and she wants eternal youth. So she sent two of her witch buddies through a dimensional portal to our world into medieval times, where they were stranded on a field somewhere, and then she cast some spell that created a permanent link between that field and Enchantia, which also killed her two buddies, but hey, evil. So, okay, a permanent dimensional rift in a field somewhere. Cool. Next step is to secure the main ingredient of her rejuvenation spell, which is a male child? Okay. Well, I didn't know we were that evil, but okay. So, because time moves faster in our dimension than it does in Enchantia, it's now suddenly modern day, and our friend here, his name is Brad, is out playing baseball with his sister. He's a male child, sure, so Scowly here zaps him through the portal, gives him a change of clothing, and sticks him in her dungeon?
Paddle, 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 paddle.
Like, I'm getting some really weird vibes off of this story already. It's not just the details that fall apart under closer scrutiny, like why she needed to send 2 of her witch buddies through the portal first, or why she needed to borrow magic powers from all the other witches in the realm to zap Brad through it, or if time moves so fast on our side than it does in Enchantia, why does the witch have time to look hungrily and excitedly through the portal before casting the summoning spell, or even why the main ingredient in her rejuvenation cocktail is a male child, because apparently there are no male children in Enchantia, even though we meet plenty of human, or at least human-looking male characters throughout the game. Look, I am not one to throw words like misogyny around carelessly, but there are a few alarm bells going on here. I mean, all the witches in Enchantia are described as vain, malevolent, and depraved, and who cause mindless destruction and mayhem, even fucking holocausts, for no cause or reason. And I checked my footage back. There's not a single female character in this game, unless you count this fortune-telling seal named Sally, so not a single human female character. Everyone else is either a weird monster, or a creepy old dude, or a witch. So that means all the women in Enchantia are A, witches, and 2, obsessively vain. And 3rd, possibly a bit... Yeah, but that's just my reading into it. Look, jokes aside, this whole introduction reads like it was written by a 12-year-old finishing up their homework 10 minutes before class, but I guess we should just roll with it, since this is just meant to be comic strip good fun, right? Yeah, toxic attitudes be damned. Just look how pretty this game is. I'll definitely give it that. Core knew what they were fucking doing on the presentation side. This game is gorgeous. And remember, this is 1992. This is the same year we got games like Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, King's Quest VI, Legend of Kyrandia, and this game easily ranks up there with the heavyweights in terms of visual presentation. The hand-drawn backgrounds are stylish and detailed, but without being overly crammed and hard to read, and it boggles my mind they were all drawn by a single person. King's Quest VI had 10 artists working on it, according to Moby Games. This game had 3. 1 for all the backgrounds, and 2 for the sprite animations. And the sprite animations are quirky and lovely and full of comic book whimsy. The sprite work does sometimes look like the characters in the sketchbook from that weird kid in 6th grade class who could draw really well but kept to himself and had already taken up smoking cigarettes. But it has a lot of great detail and it fits really well in with the backgrounds. The sound is also pretty good for its time, although not quite as impressive. The music is good, but it's just the same 2 or 3 tunes being repeated throughout the entire game. Only 1 or 2 locations have music written specifically for them, the rest just jukebox the 3 main tunes. Similarly, the sound effects are all really low fidelity, 1-second cartoon bops and boings, and this is where you can tell that this was actually an Amiga game first and foremost. I can't put my finger on what it is specifically, but there's just something about the audio side of this game that screams Amiga to me. And that's not a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but it definitely feels like the PC version was just a port of an Amiga game and not the other way around. You know what? Come to think of it, the music does sound a lot like mod tracker music. I mean, it is MIDI, but it sounds like it was just converted from a mod file. I mean, I've listened to a lot of tracky music in my time, but I checked YouTube for playthroughs of the Amiga version, and all the ones I could find had no music at all except for the title screen. Just sound effects, no music. So I guess the music is exclusive to the PC version. Anyway, this is what it sounds like on an emulated Roland MT32. Let's just see what sound options we have. I'm clicking the button, but nothing's happening. Let's check the manual again. Yeah, there it is. Amiga version only. Although the sound icon still appears on the icon bar of the PC version, it does not function. Use the setup program. Okay, that explains a few things. Chiefly, that this is indeed an Amiga game, and they couldn't even be bothered to remove an icon that they knew was useless from the PC version. But it also begs the question of just what sound options the Amiga version had. Just sound on and off? No, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. That would be ridiculous. Okay, I found the Amiga version, and I got it working, and as far as I can tell, the sound icon doesn't do anything here either. I'm clicking it like mad, and nothing is happening. Maybe if I configured my Amiga emulator differently, it would do something, but I am no expert on the Amiga, and I have no idea what they even intended this thing to do in the first place. It just says various sound options in the manual. It could mean anything. Now, you notice I'm spending a lot of time talking about the inner mechanics of the game and not so much about how the plot and story unfold. And that's because there isn't any. There is no plot. There's no story. All that business about the witches and the rejuvenation spell and Brad getting abducted from a cursed baseball field, they might as well not even have bothered. What this game is essentially a collection of puzzle arenas. The game dumps you in a location with a small handful of puzzles to solve, then sits back and waits for you to figure them out. Once you have, it grabs you by the lapels and throws you into a new arena. Rinse and repeat. And since the game is entirely non-verbal, you're never given any backstory about any of the characters you run into, nor are you given any valuable information about your quest or the plight of the inhabitants of Enchantia, whom we were told in the manual longed for the days when all those fucking wicked witches would fuck off and leave them in peace. Well, I say entirely non-verbal, that's not exactly true. You can go up to anyone and anything in the game and say either hi to them, or scream help at the top of your lungs, which I thought was great fun.
Help! 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 Help!
But the puzzles, oh shit, the puzzles. Look, this whole mechanic of dumping you into a puzzle arena where everything is communicated through grunts and gestures and icons and speech bubbles. Where have I seen this before? No, give me a second, it's coming to me. Hang on, give me a minute. It's on the tip of my it's Goblins, it's fucking Goblins. This is Goblins ripoff. Well, in spirit, at least, because where Goblins was a puzzle game with clearly defined sections and a simple interface that you could pick up in seconds, Curse of Enchantia is a puzzle game masquerading as an adventure game with an absolutely bewildering interface. Right-clicking brings up your standard actions, which starts out with inventory. I'll come back to this one in a bit. Then you have pick up, other actions, look at, talk, attack, and jump. Other actions, you say? What could other actions possibly cover? Well, unlock, insert, push, pull, eat, wear, throw, give, and combine, of course. Silly of you to ask. And whereas the puzzles in Goblins were intricately crafted to make the most of its three protagonists' abilities, the puzzles in Enchantia pretty much boil down to guessing which combination of these weird action icons to use in any given situation. Some are pretty straightforward, like picking up this pair of dice, then throwing the pair of dice, and others are anything but, like here, where you have to attack this block of ice with a fishing rod, because then Brad snaps it in half and builds a fire with it, out of just 2 sticks of wood. Okay, then, points for resourcefulness there, Brad, but how the fuck was I supposed to guess that would happen? Side note, if you're wondering if I played this game with a walkthrough open in a browser next to it, you're goddamn right I did. Otherwise, I'd still be stuck in these stupid caves, wondering why I can keep picking up rocks and give them to this rock-smashing dude and nothing happens. Turns out, nothing does happen until you give him 12 rocks. 12 goddamn rocks. And this might be a good time to talk about the inventory. Because the inventory button here on the far left of your icon bar shows you what you have in your inventory, and that's all it does. You can't inspect or do anything to the items you're carrying like you can in other games, and if you want to use your items on something, you have to do it via the other actions in the action bar. Also, you can only have 10 items in your inventory for no good goddamn reason, other than they only drew 10 of these little squares at the bottom. But you're supposed to give the Rock Basher 12 rocks, and you already have shit in your inventory when you get here, so you have to go and pick up rocks, then give them to this shitbird, then backtrack and pick up more rocks, and go back and give more rocks to this shitbird, then backtrack again, and yeah. Does any of this sound fun and intuitive to you? 'Cause it's not. And speaking of things that have bizarre limitations, I just have to point out there are only 8 save game slots in this game. You can have 8 save games, that's it. There's a special place in hell reserved for computer game programmers who arbitrarily limit the amount of save games you can have in a game, and it's not out of consideration to the people who are playing this on floppy disks, because you can't play this off a floppy disk in the PC version. You have to install it to your hard drive. But you can play the Amiga version off floppy disks, and I can only assume that the save game limitation was carried over when they ported the game, along with the sound icon that does nothing. And you need more than 8 save games to play this game, because there are sections of this game that are just tedious slogs of repetitive bullshit, like this gauntlet across a cliffside. This is basically just a platformer disguised as an adventure game. You have to dodge falling rocks, crawl across rope, dodge more falling rocks, figure out this button combination by just pure guesswork, and dodge more goddamn falling rocks. And if you fail at any point, you get carried off by this bird right back to the fucking start, at which point you'd better hope you had a save game where you left off, or you have to slowly make your way all the way back. Oh, and you can't reload your game until after the bird has dropped you off, so fuck you. You have to sit through this slow scroll back to the start each and every fucking time. Or this bit here with the ice castle. This is where you pick up and throw the dice. Now, every time you throw the dice, the room through that doorway changes. And there are other rooms inside that room that are only accessible if a certain dice combination is thrown. And there are objects inside those rooms that you need. But even if you know exactly what it is you need, because at this point you're following a walkthrough step by step just to hold on to that last flimsy thread of sanity, the dice rolls are, of course, random. So you're stuck throwing these dice and checking empty rooms for ages and ages until you've got all the shit you need. And for some reason this ice castle bit ends with a witch trying to murder you? Why? What did I ever do to her? I mean, I know we hate witches and women and everything, but it's not like this one's got a cauldron full of rejuvenation juice. I mean, what's her problem? But never mind that. This is the part where I truly learned to hate Brad and his stupid fucking face. I thought the game was broken when I got to this part. Even the walkthrough I was following was no help. All it said was, pick up the board, then throw it at the water. Okay. Dumbass drops the board to the ground. I pick it up again, move somewhere else. Dumbass drops it to the ground. I walk around all the edges of this tiny little river, checking the look icon to see if there's a place where the water has a hotspot. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. Objects in this game only show up when you're standing right on top of them. Otherwise, the look menu is empty. Brad must be fucking nearsighted or something. And do you think they take this wonderful opportunity to stash items in or behind foreground objects where you can't see them and you just have to check every nook and cranny of each screen to see if there are any items hidden? Of course they do. All the fucking time. Look, I'm still trying to work out where to drop this fucking board. There's no water hotspot anywhere. Now I'm just carrying this stupid fucking board around like a dumbass, dropping it everywhere I possibly can. There's nearly 15 minutes of footage of me doing this over and over again until finally, plop. What the fuck, Brad? Why didn't you just put the plank over the river? Wouldn't that have made more sense? I mean, come to think of it, why didn't we just jump over it? We have a jump icon on the menu bar. The gap's like 5 feet tops. You could skip over that. Again, why are we doing any of this? No idea. Why is there a giant nose on legs here? Why is there an Inuit here who promptly keels over in disgust if you're not wearing deodorant? Why is there a dude with a boombox hanging out in front of a cave who will only move if you give him a tape recording of a band that's literally 10 feet away from him, and also 10 feet away from an active volcano that shoots fireballs next to a postbox and a giant pile of hair? The game offers no explanation for any of this because, remember, mum's the word. And I'm sure the designers would just say it's whimsical, wacky comedy and we shouldn't think too much about it. Well, why even pretend to have a story then? If all you're gonna do is put a few paragraphs of prepubescent garbage in a manual about how evil and vain women, witches are, and then spend the entirety of the actual game just throwing bizarre non sequiturs at us? Fine, let's just skip to the ending then. There's some lovely screens here showing Brad approaching the witch's castle, which seems like a grand waste of effort because there's almost nothing to do here. And then you get to the witch herself, who's then defeated by a series of trial and error puzzles involving 3 inventory items, and then you get this victory screen. Done. That's it. That's literally the ending. I don't know what to say, really. I played this game because I wanted to play its sequel, and I was worried I might miss out on some important facets of the story, or at least a wink and a nudge, but I guess I just wasted my time. I mean, if the puzzles had been as interesting or as well designed as the presentation, I might have been able to at least enjoy that, but a lot of it is just trial and error, and so much of it comes down to fighting with the cumbersome interface and making outlandish guesses, rather than actually thinking and working out solutions. And even if you forego the flimsy pretext of the story, Curse of Enchantia is just a collection of obtuse pixel hunts and moon logic bullshit that looks great, but plays like absolute ass. But with the frankly insulting attempt at a backstory that they for some reason felt compelled to put in the game manual, I actually feel kinda dirty playing this. It's got that real dude bro vibe about it, but it's British, so I guess it's a lads kinda game. I mean, the help button even says thanks to the lads for all the help and criticism, so yeah. I checked the credits, not a single woman worked on this game. And I'm not saying that would have made it any better, I'm just saying maybe they would have had some slightly different help and criticism. Like, I don't know, maybe just a reason why all the women in Enchantia are evil witches who do evil deeds because they're evil. Maybe I'm just expecting too much. But I'm still excited to play the sequel. Oh, it's not even a sequel. It was supposed to be a sequel, but then one of the dudes left. That's this guy, Rob Toon, and these are seriously the only pictures I could find of him. And the sequel turned into something more serious and less comic strippy and maybe less laddish too? We'll find out. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you around the Chrono Stream. Bye.